Where are the top 10 places to live in Kansas City? If you just Google that, you'll get a website called niche.com. And if you go off of that list, you might be being misled. So stick around until the very end of the video, and I will show you that for a lot of the places that niche.com lists, you could actually find houses in cheaper areas with all of the same amenities. So let's turn to the list and see what niche.com, this website that ranks areas, neighborhoods, and locations, says are the top 10 places to live in Kansas City. Okay, so here we are on niche.com's 2024 best places to live in the Kansas City area. Now, the first one is Beverly Estates. And to be honest with you, when I first clicked on this list, I said, hey, I must not be doing my job right, because where are the Beverly Estates? If you click on it, it's actually a neighborhood, number one best neighborhood to live in Overland Park. And spoiler, Overland Park occurs a lot on this list. And niche.com basically gives it grades. It's overall an A+, but it's A+ public schools, which I would imagine it's the Blue Valley School District, A+ in housing, A+ good for families, A- nightlife. I don't know exactly what nightlife is going on in Beverly Estates. You got a B- for diversity, A+ in health and fitness, B in cost and living. So this is basically how they are contributing to this list and making this list. There's only close to 3,000 people in Beverly Estates, not that many, and it's a very kind of random suburban neighborhood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Beverly Estates and where it's located. It's just this neighborhood right here in Overland Park, very near Prairie Village and very near Leawood. In fact, let's turn over to Google Earth to show you a better view of this neighborhood called Beverly Estates. There's only one house here. This is $439,000 for a 3-bed, 3-bath house in Beverly Estates, which actually is not that much higher than the median price point of the Kansas City Metro, which right now in 2024 is $385,000. So for just a little bit more, you can get into the niche.com's number one best rated neighborhood in Kansas City. But let's take a closer look at Beverly Estates. Okay, so if I were to search Beverly Estates, and let's just go to some of the street views, and let's just see what's so awesome about Beverly Estates. So let's drop our little man right down here and zoom in, and let's see. So you have homes here that I would imagine are built anywhere in the 1960s to 1970s in Beverly Estates. They're a little bit older, not that many new builds in this particular location. And one of the things that you're going to realize about this list is that some of these ratings are completely arbitrary. If you go off of these ratings, you may be getting a great location. I have no doubt that this area is a great place to live. However, is it better than a lot of these other locations right around it? It's probably cheaper than Prairie Village. You can see where we are located here. It's right next to Prairie Village, right next to Leawood, two of the most desirable areas in the metro, two of the highest price point areas in the metro. Meadowbrook Park is a beautiful park that we take our family to sometimes. It's got a big fishing pond. It's got a great place to fly kites. It's got a great sledding hill. It's got a ton of fun things to do for a family. And you're super close to it, which is a definitely a huge positive. But A+ in nightlife, if you look at Beverly Estates, like, again, what is there really to do here? You got an elementary school, you've got, a church, you've got another church. I mean, are you really going out, to bars or to clubs or to even anything that's kind of kid friendly in this area? I don't necessarily think so. So that's why when it says it's an A- in nightlife, maybe the nightlife surrounding it, because you're not super far away from downtown Kansas City, maybe that's true. But let's go all the way down and see what some people are saying about Beverly Estates. And here's a tough thing. There's only like 3 reviews here. And this person says it's a good area to live. It's a good area to live. It's a good area to live. I mean, I think it's a good area to live. This person says atmosphere is kind of great. People who live here are kind and helpful and love the community in which they live. So this is, I think you can describe a lot of Kansas City with this here. I consider this area to be very safe and comfortable. Crime is low. Police are very vigilant and on top of things. I could say that you could say this with a lot of neighborhoods in the surrounding areas, in Overland Park, in Prairie Village, in Leawood. And one of the things I don't want you to be misled here is that if you go back to this list, again, Beverly Estates, it's a neighborhood in Overland Park. Let's go to number 2, Knoll Hills, another neighborhood in Overland Park. Now, I actually recognize this because I sold a house in Knoll Hills, There's 5 reviews, so let's go see where Null Hills is. And guess what? If you look on the map, it's pretty close to, again, Prairie Village, close to Leawood, close to Beverly Estates, right directly south of Beverly Estates. And you have a little bit more options here in terms of homes. I would imagine that it's going to be very similarly price point homes in this area. Here you go, $495,000. It's a bigger house than that house that we looked at in Beverly Estates. This one's $489,000. Again, it's another bath, a little bit bigger. So these homes are going to be just slightly more than that $430,000. There's one for right above the average price point in Kansas City. And I would imagine that with a lot of people, if you're like, hey, I live in Beverly Estates or I live in Null Hills, they may not be able, unless they're, lifelong Overland Park residents, they might not be able to exactly point out this small little subdivision. So I would say when I'm reacting to this list, let's look at Null Hills, okay? So we're zooming back out, we're going back in here. See, Google defines this as a much larger area, which includes Shawnee Mission High School and this area, but let's just zoom into here, okay? And let's zoom into these houses, drop our little man here, right in the heart of Null Hills. You've got this ranch style house that looks like 1960s, 1970s construction with a ADA accessible ramp, which might be common in these areas because you do have a lot of people who are getting older. You have another 2-car garage ranch style house with one of those contemporary newer doors. You've got another ranch style house here. So again, a little bit surprising that they didn't just list Overland Park as the #1 best place to live, because that's probably what I would have done. I would have just said Overland Park is the best place to live in Kansas City, not necessarily Null Hills. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip down and we're going to skip all of these Overland Park areas, because you can see here's Beverly Estates, a neighborhood in Overland Park, a neighborhood in Overland Park, okay? We're going to skip Leawood, we're going to go back to that, a neighborhood in Overland Park, a neighborhood in Overland Park, Overland Park itself. So we're just going to say Overland Park claims the #1 spot, and we're going to go to number 2, okay? So we're just going to lump Overland Park all in one, and then we're going to go to number 2, which is Leawood. Now, number 2, Leawood, I would definitely agree that is going to be one of the best places to live in Kansas City. So let's go look at Leawood. Leawood is a long suburb north and south. You've got a ton of golf courses, as you can see here, and you've got homes that can easily get into the $1 million range. The cheapest that I've seen people get into Leawood is like right around that $300,000 mark. But if you look, this is a 2-bed, 2-bath home for $315,000 in Leawood. So that's actually not that bad of a deal, I would say, because you are living in, like I said, in the #2 neighborhood to live in Kansas City. This is a 4-bed, 7-bath, 7,000 square foot kind of estate. Leawood is pretty long, again, north and south, and it's right on the Missouri-Kansas border. You've got a couple of golf courses here. Hallbrook is one of the nicest country clubs in Leawood. If we drop ourselves into Hallbrook, these homes around this area are going to be well into the, close to the $1 million range or above it. So really beautifully manicured houses. This is probably a, 4 to 5 bed at least home in Leawood, maybe, 6 or 7. So this is one of the most desirable areas in Leawood. I know that rumor has it there's going to be celebrities living in Leawood. There's chiefs living in Leawood. Definitely in an area like this that's going to be completely taken care of, completely manicured, really nice golf course. These lesser homes, as you could call it, not necessarily estates. This is probably homes that are in the $500,000-$600,000 range. This is what you can get in Leawood. These are beautiful homes. Again, I think 1950s to 1970s constructions is probably what you're going to get in this particular area. And again, we're just exploring these kind of more random areas just so that you can get a feel of what these places look like. So Leawood is the #2 best area to live according to niche.com. Let's just scroll down a little bit and let's see if we can find number 3. Okay, again, we're going to skip Overland Park because they've already won #1, right? This is still Overland Park. We're going to skip Overland Park. Now we're going to go to Prairie Village. In 2022, Prairie Village was named as the best place to live in all of America. Prairie Village is kind of like this cross-shaped part of it, right, abuts right to State Line Road. And then it's not nearly as big as Overland Park, which is over here, and Leawood, which is right below it. But Prairie Village is a very, very trendy, attractive place where you're going to have houses anywhere from $300,000, the cheapest, and up. So here's $450,000 for a 3-bed, 2-bath. You've got a $2 million one. And again, these are just random. I'm just clicking these random addresses. $439,000, pretty good deal in Prairie Village, especially for a 4, 2.5, 1,800 square feet. That's not too bad. $525 for a 4-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,600 square feet. One thing that people do like about Prairie Village, as you can see if I zoom out just a little bit, it is pretty close to Westport, Union Hill, downtown Kansas City right here. You can easily get downtown from almost anywhere in Prairie Village. It's not that big of an area. And there's a lot of people who really, really want to live here in Prairie Village. So let's explore it via Google Maps. So as we zoom, again, this kind of funny shaped in Prairie Village. Meadowbrook Park is what I told you. It's a fantastic park for a lot of kids to play. If you go to Meadowbrook Park, there are places that you can stay like overnight. There's an inn here. I think it's called the Inn at Meadowbrook Park. Let me see if I can find it here. Well, it's right near there. If you walk around these areas here, it kind of reminds me of like living on a resort almost. So you've got this beautiful, these apartment complexes, and you've got these large either condos or houses right here. And this is Meadowbrook Park. I've seen like a ton of kids like fishing here. It's a really safe, desirable area right in the heart of Kansas City. So if you come right here, right over the Kansas and Missouri border, the shops of Prairie Village are a very trendy, cool spot for a lot of people to hang out. Oh man, you just zoomed into the parking lot here. So let's come over here to French Market here. It's a cool coffee shop. French Market, you've got a whole bunch of this, quaint little, I guess you can't really call it a downtown. It's kind of like a old town, old shops, I guess is the best description of it. So not only do you have really historic, really cute houses here, you've got shopping, you've got golf, you've got basically everything that you want, beautiful parks, safe neighborhoods. And I think that you can probably start picking up a trend here is that Niche.com, they like good school systems, safe neighborhoods, low crime areas, which is unsurprising because obviously if you're looking for the best place to live, nobody wants crime. Everybody wants a good school. Even if you don't have kids, you should buy in a good school district because the next buyer may have kids and may want that particular good school district, and that will raise the value of your home. So again, Prairie Village, Kansas is the next place that we find on Niche.com's list. Okay, so we've done number 1, number 2, number 3. So number 1 is Overland Park, number 2 is Leawood, number 3 is Prairie Village. Are you noticing a trend all in Kansas? Okay, so I think there's a kind of bias to Niche.com. Let's see the first one that we're going to get. Again, we're skipping all of these because this is Overland Park. Overland Park, we already covered Overland Park. Okay, now here's number 4. Okay, our first Missouri suburb, Parkville. Parkville is up north of the river. It's in what's considered the Northland. If you're brand new to Kansas City, when somebody says North Kansas City, that's actually this area right here. Okay, this area is North Kansas City. When they refer to the Northland or Kansas City North, that's everything above the Missouri River right here. So Parkville is located in Platte County, north of the river. You have, let's look at these report cards, okay? Crime and safety, they gave it a B-. That's a little bit surprising for Parkville. We're going to see a little bit here. Good for families, A+. Here we go. Look at public schools, A. This is the Park Hill School District. Outdoor activities, B+. I would say that's not accurate. There's a really cool park in Parkville. In fact, let's go look at it. It's called English Landing Park. Let's zoom out from Kansas. Boom, we're over in Parkville. This is a pretty cool riverfront park that you can come to. You can walk all along here, this river trail. If you zoom in here, maybe we can get a better view of it. Oh, we're gonna get a view from the road here. But if you come here, I mean, this is all part of English Landing Park. It's a really cool, beautiful area. We have walked it many, many times, especially when we lived in the Northland. We no longer live in the Northland, but when we lived there, we loved coming to Parkville and English Landing Park. Let's zoom out a little bit more, and let's come straight to the park, and I'll show you the view. You can see the Missouri River. So it's definitely a nice area. I would say it probably has more outdoor activities than in Overland Park. Overland Park has great parks. I'm not taking that away from it, but Parkville has a lot of cool, more spaced out areas. You can see if you're driving through Parkville, there are some new developments. So this is the National Golf Course up here, and of course you're going to have development all along this golf course, really beautiful houses that could easily get close to $1 million, if not $1 million. but you also have these larger lots in Parkville. So I have a few clients out here in Parkville, and when we were helping them find their home, what they loved was they have bigger lots. So Parkville is a little bit more spread out. You can see like this house right here. This is not their house, but this house right here, there's really no neighbors, right? You can look around and you can find these lots out here in Parkville. These houses are a little bit closer together, but I'll bet you they have a lot of land in the back here. You're not necessarily right next to your neighbor. Like in more suburban areas, you might be like right here. And Parkville, I would say, is slightly suburban, but not as suburban. But you can find a lot of these lots at least half an acre plus. Sometimes you can get up to an acre. I would think that this lot, especially if it comes up here, I don't know the exact lot lines, but this is not an uncommon lot in Parkville. Maybe 2 acres that you could live on out here in Parkville. So if you want to be kind of out in the city, out in the country while still being in the city, then you can find that out in Parkville. And I think that they're right in grading Parkville one of the best areas to live in the Kansas City metro. But again, we are already kind of deep into the list, and Parkville, this is the first Missouri suburb. So if you stay tuned, at the end, I will give you 5 Kansas and 5 Missouri areas that you might want to target in terms of a very even top 10. Okay, so now we're moving to what they say is number 11, but actually is number 5. This is Westwood, Kansas. If you can see, Westwood right here is right in the heart of it all. It's really super close to Westport, Midtown Country Club Plaza. It's got A+ public schools, A- housing, good for families. Job cost of living is C+, which is, I do agree with. You're gonna have a lot more high price point homes in this area. It's going to be kind of expensive. A for commute because you're so close. Crime and safety, C+. I don't know. You can look it up yourself how grades are calculated in the data sources. I don't think there's a ton of crime in Westwood. It's about less than 2,000 people. And if we look here, there's only, again, a few houses. I would be surprised if anything was below 500,000. There you go, 560,000. And you've got 698,000. A very, very small area here. And if you go directly west from Country Club Plaza, if you drive right down here on 47th, that's Country Club Plaza, you go straight down, you're going to be in Westwood. And a lot of these homes, some of them have been completely torn down and just rebuilt. So let's look at Westwood, Kansas. So now we're zooming into Westwood, and let's see if we can find one of these homes that have been completely rebuilt. Again, we're kind of going off the cuff here. So this is a home that was probably original. Let's see if we can go up the street and we can find something. Okay, so here is a house that probably hasn't been remodeled in Westwood, and then right next door you have a house that has probably undergone some significant remodeling here. You've got this, newer garage door, and everything here. So let's go down the street a little bit and see what we can find. You've got a lot of these smaller little bungalows, and a lot of these people too, I'm sure, are shocked prices that their homes can now fetch. I mean, this home elsewhere in Kansas City might be maybe $250,000, but because it's in Westwood, I would imagine it's well over maybe even close to $400,000. Because again, you're right in the heart of everything. I mean, here's a cute one with a detached garage. It's not necessarily the most incredible house, but it's a small home, but it's just the location. If you look, so in Westwood, you are right next to everything here. You are right next to the Country Club Plaza, like I said before. Nelson Atkins is right here. Luce Park. All of these are super, super desirable areas. And if you are in Westwood or even Westwood Hills, which is just a separate neighborhood here, you've got houses that are just really nicely maintained, remodeled, but they're super cute as well. They're beautiful houses, and a lot of people just really do want to live in these areas and neighborhoods that are considered trendy, are considered really hip and cool areas to live. And I would say Westwood and the surrounding areas are going to be all of that. So we are already at number 5, and we only have one Missouri area. So let's see what number 6 brings. So again, we're skipping all the Overland Park ones. Let's go back. We're going down Fairway. Fairway is another very small suburb in Kansas City. Again, C+ crime and safety, I definitely disagree with this. I don't think Fairway is going to be a very dangerous area in which to live. It's a very small area right next to Kansas City Country Club and Mission Hills Country Club. You can see, again, it's right next to Westwood. It's right next to Overland Park and Prairie Village. Right in this area, Leawood is a little bit down here. We've covered again, if you're noticing a theme, we've covered this whole area almost. And Fairway, you're going to pay a lot of money to live in Fairway. A new build in Fairway for $1 million. You've got a $275,000, but look at how much you're getting. You're getting 800 square feet for $275,000 in Fairway. In fact, out of curiosity, let's click this little one and let's see. Okay, you've got very outdated kitchen. You got washer and dryer in the kitchen. Again, if this is your style, this is definitely not a bad place to live. This is one of the best places to live, but you're not going to get as much for your money if you were to go to even if you were just moved to Overland Park. But Fairway is going to be very, very expensive. You got these, these really old wood panels, old chandelier. You're going to have to completely redo, at least cosmetically, this house. I'm sure there's a lot of great qualities about this house, but you are paying $275,000 to live in this area. There's no doubt. This is a 2-bedroom house, and that's a lot of money to pay in Fairway. So let's look at Fairway on Google Earth. Let's zoom out of Westwood and let's look at Fairway. Fairway, Kansas is a really small slice of area here. And let's look at some of these, bigger houses. Let's just drop ourselves in a random street. Again, this is kind of more off the cuff. I just wanted to react to this video because I wanted to show you. Here's a ranch style home in Fairway. And again, when they say crime and safety is a C+, maybe just because it's close to the city and higher crime areas, I would imagine that in Fairway, you're not going to get that much crime. Also, another thing too in Fairway, I guess this random neighborhood that we dropped ourselves in doesn't have sidewalks, which I'm actually a little bit surprised. I'm learning along with you that this neighborhood doesn't have sidewalks. So let's drop ourselves here at another kind of intersection in Fairway. You've got, again, houses that I would imagine are built in the 1950s at the newest, maybe even a little bit older, or maybe 1950s and 1970s. I want to revise that here. So Fairway is definitely not a bad place to live, but that's number 6 on this area. So let's go back to niche.com and let's zoom out. And maybe you can guess, do you think it's going to be a Kansas suburb or Missouri suburb next? We are already at number 6, and we've only covered one Missouri suburb. So let's keep going. Again, we're skipping Overland Park neighborhoods. I don't know why they divided Overland Park into all these neighborhoods, but here we find Lenexa. Now, one interesting thing about Lenexa is that, at least according to the stats of the first quarter of 2024, Lenexa was one of the neighborhoods that dipped the most out of all the areas in Kansas City. That's just based on stats. But you can see that it's not a bad place to live. In fact, it's number 7 on our list of niche.com's places to live. Crime and safety B-. See, this is pretty low. I think it's just too low. I think crime and safety, if I had to revise this, at least be a B+, maybe an A-. But there's 60,000 people in Lenexa. The median home value is $348,000, which, if you include all of the average home prices, and I know median and average are going to be different, but if you include the average home prices, it's $385,000. In Lenexa, the median is $348,000. So let's move down, and we've got a lot of houses that we can pick from in Lenexa. $435,000, 4-bed, 3-bath. It's not a bad value. $679,000. You got a 3,000 square foot house here. $675,000. I would imagine this one is a little bit newer. Let's click on it to see if I'm right. Yeah, I would imagine this is no more than a decade, maybe at most 2015. No older than 2015. So let's zoom in on Lenexa in Google Earth, and let's see. One of the notable things about Lenexa is that it has one of the best and one of the newest city centers in all of Kansas City. There, you can see, at least in this map, they're still doing construction here, but they have actually finished quite a bit in this city center here. So you have a really cool gym. You have a rec center here that our kids enjoy going to. Let's come over here. This is the city hall. I think this is the rec center in which the pool is in. So there's a really great indoor pool. We make the drive out to Lenexa to enjoy this pool. You've got golf, you've got commerce, all right here. So that's why I'm a little bit surprised that Lenexa was on the list of areas that have declined in the first quarter of 2024, at least compared to 2023. However, we're going to see what happens in the second quarter. We're going to do another video of what happens in the second quarter, and I would imagine that Lenexa has gone up. I'm not sure exactly why it's gone down at all, but That's going to be one of the things that is kind of strange about real estate. You don't necessarily have the like one-to-one correlation to know all of the factors that cause the market to do what it does. Moving to Lenexa, and again, we are noticing a huge Kansas bias. And guess what? It continues with the next place. Number 8 is okay. Shawnee is an area right next to Lenexa, right next to Overland Park. I mean, heck, we might as well just say Johnson County is the best place in Kansas City to buy a home. And I mean, it's got great schools. It's relatively safe. It's good for families. All of these things I agree with. Again, crime and safety, B-. Maybe that's just the reputation of Kansas City, spilling over to these areas that are actually pretty desirable. You can see the median home value is less than Lenexa. I would imagine that's going to be less than Overland Park as well, but you're also going to be closer to downtown. You're going to be you're going to be a little bit north of Lenexa, next to Miriam, next to Fairway, all of these areas here. And again, a lot of the happening places are going to be downtown. But let's click on a few houses, a few random houses. $730,000, 5 beds, 4.5 baths, 5,000 square feet. You've got $520,000, 4 beds, 4.5 baths, 3,200 square feet. You've got $625,000. So you're almost getting into Wyandotte County here if you cross the river. So I think this one is actually probably in Wyandotte County. I'm not sure why it's pulling up as Lenexa, but let's just make sure that we're clicking on things that are squarely in Lenexa. So $374,000 3-bed, 3-bath house in 2,200 square feet. That's what you can get in Shawnee. Sorry, I misspoke if I said Lenexa there. So let's take a look at Shawnee. It's going to be very similar to Lenexa. Zooming out, going directly north, and here it is. All right here, this large area is Shawnee. We also have a vlog tour of Shawnee. If you want to see more of that, you can definitely click there. But again, we are at number 8. We've only mentioned one Missouri suburb. Okay, I think there's a definite bias here. So let's move to number 9. Okay, here we go. Another neighborhood in Overland Park. Cherokee Hills, Regency Park, Bel Air, Overland Park. Okay, we've reached Olathe. Olathe is in the southwest kind of corner of the Kansas City Metro, almost getting out of the Metro, near Gardner, near Spring Hill, right next to Overland Park. But let's just see what this says about here. Very similar kind of report card to everything else in Johnson County. Again, crime and safety, B-. Is probably not necessarily accurate. 317,000, probably because it's so Olathe is so large. You can see it's a pretty large area here. So let's click on a few random homes here. 339,000, 435,000. And again, I'm not sure why it's pulling, some of these areas that are definitely not Olathe. But let's see. Let's just get to the end of this list. This is number 9, and let's see what number 10 is. And I don't know, maybe you can bet whether it's going to be a Kansas or Missouri suburb. I would bet Kansas, but guess what? It is a Missouri suburb. It's Weatherby Lake, and this is the first kind of lakeside community here. And see, nightlife compared to Overland Park, probably going to be about the same nightlife, and it depends on like how far out you want to go for nightlife. All of these areas, I would say, are going to be at most 20 to 25 minutes out from downtown Kansas City. That's where most of the nightlife is. It's not going to be in these suburbs. A lot of these suburbs, and again, if you stick around to the end, I will give you my list of top 10 areas to live in Kansas City, but I'm going to kind of make it tailor-made to this type of niche.com list, because I could argue to you that you have areas like Midtown, you have areas like downtown that have incredible nightlife, incredible diversity, incredible food, awesome places. Might not get an A for crime and safety. You can easily look at a crime list, and that might drag it down. But it's clear that this list right here values good schools, values low crime, values places that are good for families, whatever that means, right? So as I give you this top 10 list in Weatherby Lake, let's just look at Weatherby Lake before I get you there. So we're zooming out. We're going into Weatherby Lake. It's a large. One of the larger lakes, not as big as Smithville, but it's in the Northland, again, like Parkville. So both of the areas that we talked about in Missouri, according to niche.com, are in the Missouri area. But a lot of these houses, you do have really cool houses that have lake access. You have houses that have docks. You have a lot of people who own boats. You can go boating. You can go. I don't know if people necessarily swim in Weatherby Lake. I would imagine that they do. You definitely can fish. I've seen people do that before. Never sold a house at Weatherby Lake, so if you want to be the first one, maybe give us a call. 816-4-MOVE-KC. But it is cool. It is a cool lakeside community, a lakeside area. One of the things that I would say is a negative about Weatherby Lake is if you were to like live in these areas, sometimes when I show clients houses in Weatherby Lake, they can kind of feel like it's a little bit hard to get to. If you want your house to be like right off of Main Street, like turn here and then just park here, that's not going to be Weatherby Lake. If you live close, the closer to the lake you live, the more twists and turns it will take to get there. It's a minor thing, but I heard it mentioned to me before. So you stuck around to the end. I'm going to give you my list. And again, I don't think this is a definitive list because I'm just trying to copy what niche.com values. Okay, I'm trying to say if I were to redo this list, okay, let's just condense Overland Park into one area. And let's just, value schools, safety, those types of areas. I would give you kind of this list. Okay, number one, I would keep Overland Park. I think Overland Park is such a massive area. You can find a house there. You can find a house almost in any budget. I would say if you're looking for less than $250,000, you'd be hard pressed to find something in Overland Park. But Overland Park is a great area. Number two, I would include Leawood. Now, Leawood, should be maybe a little bit lower on this list because it is going to be expensive to live in Leawood. And again, I'm not necessarily factoring in cost of living here as much as I would in other lists. But Leawood has it all. It's super close to downtown. It's super trendy area to live in. It's got really beautiful, more established houses. Okay, so I would include Leawood. Parkville, I think, is a little bit lower on this list than I would like. Parkville, I think, is a wonderful area. If you move to Parkville, I don't think you would regret it. Parkville was one of the fastest appreciating areas in Kansas City. Number four, I would keep Prairie Village. I think Prairie Village deserves to be on this list. You can sometimes sneak into Prairie Village for the $300,000 mark, but likely you're going to have to pay more. But it's right smack dab near downtown, right smack dab near Midtown, the Crossroads, all of these fun things to do in Kansas City. But you are also living in a relatively safe area with good schools, okay? And that's what, niche.com values. Number five, I would include Lee's Summit. Lee's Summit wasn't anywhere on this list. I think it was buried at number 13 in my re-ranking of this list. Lee's Summit is a sleeper area because not a bunch of people are talking about it, at least on these lists that I find. Lee's Summit has awesome schools. Lee's Summit is pretty safe. You can still find houses in Lee's Summit. I showed a house in Lee's Summit the other day for $275,000. It was a really, well-kept house, a nice house. It's under contract now. We unfortunately didn't get it. We offered on it, and there were already 2 or 3 offers. Lee's Summit is a popular area. Number 6, I would include Lenexa. And I know I've made a video before about how Lenexa had one of the bigger price drops in the metro, but I would say Lenexa is still a fantastic place to live. Got the good schools that niche.com likes, and that community center is really, really cool. Number 7 is another one that has not been included on this list, and it's not even in the honorable mentions, and that is Blue Springs. If you go to niche.com's best rated school districts, Blue Springs is actually number 2 after Blue Valley. Blue Valley is the school district that is located in Overland Park, which again we gave it the number 1 spot, but Blue Springs is a close runner for number 2. So Blue Springs is a sleeper again according to these metrics. Number 8, I would include the Liberty area. Liberty is a really fast growing area that again was actually on my list of areas that actually lost value from 2023 to 2024. My theory in that video, and I'll share with you, is that a lot of people are moving out of Liberty into these farther areas because they want to be out in the country. They're going out to the Smithvilles, they're going out to the Kearneys because they want to be in a less crowded area. Liberty has really developed. If you look at the area called the Liberty Triangle, it's a huge place of commerce and shopping and all that kind of stuff. And some people do complain about it. They say, hey, we don't like how busy Liberty has gotten. So that's Liberty, number 8. Number 9, I would include, I'm actually going to cheat 2 areas, and Mission areas. Those are 2 adjoining side-by-side cities. There's not that much in Mission for sale right now, so I would include Shawnee in that kind of general vicinity. Shawnee and Mission, again, because it's not as cool or as trendy as Prairie Village, but you're going to be a little bit farther out, a little bit farther west. and you are going to have a good selection of good schools, relatively affordable houses, while being not too far from the center of the metro. And then number 10, I'm going to give it to my old hometown, the place where I used to live in Kansas City, because I'm trying to make it even Kansas and even Missouri. I'm going to give it to Gladstone. I think Gladstone is a very, admittedly, kind of boring area, but again, if they can rate the nightlife in Overland Park an A-, Gladstone's only 15, 20 minutes away from from downtown Kansas City. So I would say if that's going to get an A-, I'd give Gladstone's nightlife like a B+. But Gladstone is not the most exciting place to live, but it's got decent schools. It's got, houses that are of a decent price point. Our house is appreciated, close to $100,000 from when we've bought it. So it's got decent value as well. And it's also located right smack dab in the middle of the Northland. So anything you want to do in the Northland, you can do in Gladstone.